There's a moment in every investor's journey that nobody warns you about. It happens quietly, without fanfare, usually on a random Tuesday when you're checking your balance before bed. You realize your investments made more money last month than you did at your job. Not because you got lucky, not because you timed the market, but because you finally crossed a threshold that changes the rules of the game entirely. Alex hit this moment at 36 years old. He'd been investing $900 a month for 9 years. His portfolio sat at $267,000. That year, while he earned $68,000 at his job, his investments returned $26,700. He worked 50 weeks. His money worked 0. His money still made 39% of what he did. 3 years later, his investments out-earned him completely. He didn't get smarter. He didn't discover some secret strategy. He just existed while a mathematical inevitability unfolded. This is the $250,000 portfolio effect. And it's not inspiration, it's a mechanism that reveals exactly how modern wealth operates when you strip away the marketing. Let's establish what we're actually talking about. Not theory, not aspiration, a specific mathematical threshold where investment returns begin generating meaningful income independent of your labor. For most people investing in diversified index funds, that threshold appears around $250,000. Some hit it earlier, some later. But this is where the curve bends, where money stops being something you accumulate and becomes something that accumulates itself. Here's why this matters right now. We're living through the largest wealth transfer in human history. Baby boomers hold roughly $70 trillion in assets. That money is moving to younger generations who are trying to figure out how wealth actually builds in a system that looks nothing like the one their parents navigated. Housing costs more, education costs more, healthcare costs more. But the investment math, that stayed the same. So you have millions of people grinding, saving, investing, following all the conventional advice, maxing out retirement accounts, dollar cost averaging, staying the course. And for years, it feels like pushing a boulder uphill in the dark. Returns are nice, but not life-changing. Your contributions matter more than your gains. You're doing all the work. Then something shifts. The boulder starts rolling on its own. Not slowly, fast. Faster than you can push it, and you realize the first decade wasn't about building wealth, it was about escape velocity. But here's what makes this strange. Most people quit before they get there. Not because they want to, because they have to, and the system never tells them how close they were. Let's strip this down to pure mechanics. No jargon, no inspirational language, just what happens when you put money into markets and wait. Historical average returns for the S&P 500 sit around 10% annually. Some years it's negative, some years it's up 30%, but over long periods, that 10% number keeps appearing like a gravitational constant. Now watch what that percentage does at different portfolio sizes. If you have $10,000 invested, a 10% return gives you $1,000. Nice, not nothing, but also not changing your life. You're still the engine. Your job matters more than your portfolio. You contribute $10,000 a year, you're adding 10 times what your investments are generating. The ratio is brutal. At $50,000, a 10% return gives you $5,000. Better, that's a modest vacation or an emergency fund top-up, but you're still the dominant force. If you're saving $12,000 a year, you're still outpacing your returns more than 2 to 1. At $100,000, you're getting $10,000 in returns. Now it's interesting. That's real money. But if you're contributing $15,000 annually, you're still doing most of the heavy lifting. The portfolio is helping, but it's not carrying you. Then you hit $250,000. 10% return gives you $25,000. That's a part-time income. That's someone's entire salary. That's rent for a year in many cities. And here's the critical part. If you're contributing $12,000 a year at this point, your investments are now generating more than you're adding. the ratio flipped. Your money is outworking you. Alex experienced this in real time. Year 9 of investing, his contributions were $10,800 for the year. His returns were $24,300. His money earned 2.25 times what he contributed. He looked at his spreadsheet and realized he'd become a supporting actor in his own financial story. This is the portfolio effect. It's not a strategy you implement. It's a phase transition that occurs when you cross a specific threshold. The system doesn't change, your behavior doesn't change, but the output transforms completely. And once you see this pattern, you start noticing something darker about how wealth actually moves through society, something nobody discusses at dinner parties. Let's trace a realistic timeline, not best-case scenario, not a finance influencer's hypothetical, just standard math with average returns and consistent contributions. Alex started at 27. He invested $900 a month into a total market index fund. No stock picking, no crypto gambling, no real estate schemes, just boring, automatic monthly deposits. Year 1 through 3, mostly contributions. His $32,400 in deposits grew to about $38,000. The gains barely registered emotionally. Year 4 through 6, the balance crosses $100,000. He's contributed $75,600. The other $24,400 is gains. Still feels like he's doing all the work. Years 7 through 9 crosses $200,000. He's contributed $118,800. The other $81,200 is growth. The gains are no longer trivial, but they're still secondary to his savings rate. Year 10 crosses $250,000, the threshold. From this point forward, everything feels different. Years 11 through 15, the portfolio grows from $250,000 to $550,000. He contributes $54,000 during this period. The portfolio generates $246,000 in gains. His contributions are now 18% of the growth. The portfolio is doing 82% of the work. Years 16 through 20, the portfolio grows from $550,000 to $1.1 million. He contributes another $54,000. The portfolio generates $496,000. His contributions are now 9.8% of the growth. He's basically irrelevant to the outcome. Notice what happened. The first $250,000 took 10 years and required $108,000 in contributions. The second $250,000 took less than 5 years and required $27,000 in contributions. The third $250,000 took about 3 years and required $16,200 in contributions. The effort decreased, the timeline compressed, the outcome accelerated. This isn't motivational, it's just compound math expressing itself once you feed it enough initial mass. But here's the part that should make you uncomfortable. Alex will be 47 when he hits $1 million. If he keeps the same contribution rate and markets do what they've historically done, he'll have $2.8 million by 57, then $5.4 million by 62. His contributions over those final 15 years, about $162,000. His gains, over $4 million. At age 62, his portfolio will likely generate $540,000 in growth that year alone, more than he earned cumulatively in his 20s, and he won't do anything to earn it except continue breathing. This is where people start getting uncomfortable, because if the math is this mechanical, this predictable, why isn't everyone doing it? That's the question that exposes everything. Let's talk about what the narrative leaves out. The financial advice industry loves telling you to start early, invest consistently, and stay disciplined. All true, all correct, and all completely useless if you don't have the prerequisites. The $250,000 threshold isn't a barrier of knowledge, it's a barrier of access. And access is just a polite word for having enough money that you can afford to lock it away for decades. According to the Federal Reserve's 2022 survey of consumer finances, The median retirement balance for Americans aged 35 to 44 is $45,000, not $250,000. The mean is $141,000, which tells you wealth is concentrated at the top of the distribution. Most people aren't anywhere near the threshold. For households under 35, the median retirement balance is $18,800. They're not decades away from the portfolio effect, they're generations away. Why? Not because they don't understand compound interest. Everyone understands compound interest. It's taught in high school. The problem isn't education, it's arithmetic. To save $900 a month like Alex did, you need to earn enough that $900 doesn't mean choosing between rent and food. At the median U.S. household income of roughly $75,000, that's 14.4% of gross income. After taxes, that's closer to 20% of take-home pay. Possible for some, impossible for most, especially if you have student loans, or medical debt, or childcare costs, or live in a city where rent is $2,000 a month. Alex had structural advantages he didn't name in his story. He graduated with $8,000 in student loans, not $80,000. He didn't have a car payment because he lived near public transit. He didn't have medical debt because he stayed healthy and had insurance through his employer. His rent was $1,100 because he had a roommate until he was 31. These aren't secrets, they're just prerequisites that financial advice pretends are universal when they're actually exceptional. The portfolio effect works, but it works for people who have enough surplus income and enough time horizon and few enough financial emergencies that the math can run uninterrupted for a decade or more. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Wealth advice is almost always reverse-engineered from people who succeeded, then presented as if following their steps will produce their outcome. But their outcome depended on conditions they didn't create and often didn't notice. Timing, geography, health, family support, the absence of bad luck. The portfolio effect doesn't care about fairness. It just cares about whether you fed it enough money early enough to let exponential growth take over. And most people can't. But let's say you do make it. Let's say you cross the threshold. There's still something the financial industry doesn't tell you, and it changes everything about what wealth actually means. Here's where the system reveals its real architecture. Once someone crosses the $250,000 threshold, the wealth doesn't just compound for them, it compounds across generations. Alex is on track to retire with roughly $5 million at age 62 if markets cooperate. He'll spend some, maybe $100,000 a year, but even spending that much, his portfolio will likely keep growing because the returns exceed his withdrawal rate. By the time he's 75, even after spending $1.3 million, his portfolio might still be worth $7 million because it grew while he was depleting it. When he dies, let's say at 85, he'll likely leave his kids $6 million, even after living comfortably for 23 years. His kids will be in their 50s or early 60s by then. They won't need the money. They'll invest it, and if they invest even half of it, that $3 million will likely become $15 million by the time they die. His grandchildren will inherit wealth that's 2 generations removed from the person who actually built it, and they'll receive it in their 30s or 40s, right when the time horizon is longest. That $15 million, if left invested and partially used, becomes $60 million by the time his great-grandchildren are adults. This is how family wealth works in practice, not through trust funds, though those help, through the compounding effect of time arbitrage. Each generation inherits money earlier in their life than the previous generation earned it, which gives compound growth more time to run. Alex worked for his first $250,000. His kids won't. His grandchildren definitely won't. but they'll all benefit from the fact that he crossed the threshold in his 30s and gave exponential math 40 years to operate. Meanwhile, someone who starts investing at 40 because they spent their 20s and 30s dealing with debt and low wages will hit the threshold at 50 if they're disciplined. Their kids inherit money in their 60s or 70s when it matters less and the time horizon is shorter. The compounding benefit across generations never kicks in the same way. This isn't a conspiracy. Nobody designed it. It's emergent behavior from a system that rewards early access to capital. Small advantages multiply. Disadvantages compound in reverse. The portfolio effect doesn't just create wealth within a lifetime. It creates dynasties across lifetimes. And once a family crosses that line, falling back below it requires spectacular incompetence or catastrophic bad luck. But there's a variable in all of this that nobody wants to acknowledge, one that could make every projection we just discussed completely wrong. The entire portfolio effect depends on one thing: that markets will continue performing roughly how they've performed over the past century. That 10% annual return isn't physics, it's history. And history doesn't guarantee repetition. What if the next 50 years look different? What if demographic shifts mean slower economic growth? What if productivity gains plateau? What if climate disruption creates volatility that breaks long-term return assumptions? If average returns compress from 10% to 7%, the portfolio effect still exists, but the threshold moves. Instead of 250,000, maybe it's 400,000. Instead of hitting it at 36, maybe you hit it at 47. That 10-year delay doesn't just postpone wealth, it fundamentally changes lifetime outcomes. The compounding curve depends on time, and losing 10 years cuts the final result nearly in half. Or consider inflation. The 10% return is nominal. Inflation erodes purchasing power. If inflation averages 3.5% instead of 2.5%, real returns drop from 7.5% to 6.5%. The math still works, but slower, gentler. The threshold arrives later. The multiplier effect is weaker. Then there's sequence of returns risk. If you hit the threshold right before a major crash, you lose years of compounding time. Alex crossed $250,000 in 2021. If 2022 had been a worse crash, or if markets stagnated for 5 years afterward, his timeline breaks. The portfolio effect assumes relatively consistent growth with temporary drawdowns. If the drawdowns become permanent or prolonged, the mechanism fails. And there's the psychological dimension nobody discusses honestly. The portfolio effect requires inhuman patience. You watch your net worth drop $80,000 in a crash and do nothing. You see coworkers buy new cars and you don't. You live below your means for decades on the promise that math will eventually validate your choices. Alex had a moment in 2022. His portfolio dropped from $287,000 to $218,000 in 8 months. That's $69,000 gone, more than he made that year at his job. He didn't sell, he kept contributing, but he lay awake at night wondering if he was a fool, wondering if the people who spent their money and enjoyed life had it right. The story we tell about Alex is that he stayed disciplined and markets recovered and he was rewarded. But there's a parallel universe where markets stagnated for a decade and his discipline was punished. And in that universe, he wasted his 30s living like a monk for no reason. The portfolio effect isn't guaranteed, it's probabilistic. It believes that the future will resemble the past enough that historical averages remain predictive. And that belief is being tested by a world that looks increasingly unlike the 20th century. So knowing all of this, what do you actually do with the information? That's where the real discomfort lives. Here's what we know. The $250,000 portfolio effect is mathematically real. Cross the threshold early enough, and compound returns generate wealth that exceeds your labor income. Wait too long or never cross it, and you spend your entire career trading time for money without ever letting money do the work. We also know the system isn't designed for universal participation. It requires surplus income, time horizon, and an absence of financial disasters. Most people don't have all three. Some don't have any. We know that once someone crosses the threshold, the advantage compounds across generations, creating structural wealth concentration that has nothing to do with individual merit. And we know the entire framework depends on assumptions about future returns that may not hold. So, what's the right move? Aggressively save to reach the threshold as fast as possible, accepting years of reduced quality of life on the promise of future payoff, or acknowledge the threshold might be unreachable given your circumstances and optimize for present well-being instead. The financial industry will tell you the answer is always invest more, save more, sacrifice more. But their interest in making you believe that's the case. They need you in the market. They need assets under management. Their incentive is to make you feel like failure to reach the threshold is a personal failing rather than a structural outcome. But what if the honest answer is that the portfolio effect benefits people who already have enough, and trying to reach it when you don't have enough creates more suffering than it alleviates? Alex made it, but Alex had a starting line that was already ahead of most people. He didn't create that advantage. He inherited it through circumstances he didn't choose. And his success, while real, isn't replicable for someone starting from a different position. This is the part where most content would pivot to advice. 5 steps to reach the threshold. 3 strategies to accelerate your savings. How to optimize your portfolio allocation. But those tactics don't solve the underlying problem. They just distract from it. The uncomfortable truth is that the portfolio effect exists in a system that concentrates wealth by design, not through conspiracy, but through mathematical inevitability. The people who start with advantages reach the threshold faster, their wealth compounds longer, their descendants inherit earlier. The gap widens generation after generation, not because anyone is trying to widen it, but because exponential math doesn't care about equity. You can participate in that system. You should if you can. But participating doesn't make the system just. It makes you a beneficiary of its inequality. So here's where we end. Not with a solution, not with hope, with a question. If the $250,000 portfolio effect is the mechanism that separates people who build generational wealth from people who spend their lives working, and if reaching that threshold depends more on your starting conditions than your effort or discipline, what does that say about the economic system we've built? What does it say about meritocracy, about opportunity, about who gets to stop worrying about money and who never does? The math works. Alex's story is real. The portfolio effect exists, but so does the question of who benefits from it and why. And that question doesn't have a comfortable answer. It just sits there, unresolved, while your portfolio balance updates in real time. Maybe the point isn't to solve it. Maybe the point is to see it clearly, to understand how the machinery actually operates, rather than how we're told it operates. To make decisions with eyes open, rather than chasing narratives that were written by people who already won. The $250,000 portfolio effect is real, but so is everything it reveals about wealth, access, and the stories we tell ourselves about success. And you don't get to unlearn that once you see it. If this changed how you see the numbers, hit the like button. Subscribe for more videos that show you how the system actually works, not how it pretends to work. And comment below with the question nobody else is asking. What's the real barrier between you and the threshold? Let's talk about what the financial industry won't say out loud. The conversation matters more than the conclusion.